All right, when it comes down to it, financial freedom really boils down to perspective. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to what is it that you're willing to do to get to that next stage in life. If you haven't watched, I've been doing this short series on financial freedom. This is episode number 4. Number 4, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you haven't watched them already, which I'm sure most of you have, y'all go back and watch episodes 1 through 3. Like I said, when it comes down to it, it's perspective. That's all it really is. It's just perspective. It's how do you see your finances in your life? Most people, okay, there's typically 2 schools of thought when it comes to money. A lot of people have this idea, especially in our society today, with inflation and social media and so many things going on, and people just ultimately enabling one another. That's it. People just enable one another. So you got a lot of people that got this mindset, you only live once, right? They got this attitude of, you know what, I've worked hard, I've earned this money, therefore I deserve to spend it. I earned it, I should spend it. I earned it, I deserve it. If I earned it, then it's mine, right? And from a secular mindset, yeah, you earned it. But do you want to continue to struggle? Do you want to continue to battle for that spot? Do you want to continue to have to be always watching that clock? I got to put in more hours so I can get more money so that way I can do whatever I want with my money again. Do you want that perspective? Do you want to continue to see it that way? Or do you really want to live free from the burden of your bills? Live free from the stress and strife that financial situations accrue. You know what I'm saying? You incur these stresses because you get money, you spend money, people do this all the time, especially in America. This is a common thing in our society where you see money coming, therefore let's spend it before you get it. Okay, I have never understood the idea of living for a tax return. I haven't. Okay, even when I was younger and even when I was struggling to make ends meet, even when, no matter what was going on, I never understood that. I always had to look at things as I got to make this count. I got to make this check count. I got to make what I've got count to the end of the month and get me through the bills and finances and the things that come my way. I got to make it. And then it doesn't mean I didn't live without credit cards. Doesn't mean I didn't live without credit. Doesn't mean I didn't live without things like that. But when it came to my tax return, that wasn't a thing that computed for me. But a lot of people, they're living for the tax return. I know people, some people really close to me that already, they done planned 5 months ago. Dude, it's barely December. You about to file your taxes at the soonest in a month from now, right? And a month is the soonest. But I got people that I'm telling you, like 5 months ago, they already planned out what they're spending their tax return on. Like, to me, that doesn't make sense. I can't wrap my head around how you're spending money, like, even though they're not physically spending it, they're planning it out. They've already budgeted what they're, I'm like, how, to me, whenever I got a tax return, it was always like a bonus. It was always like, score, I just got a check that I wasn't planning on. I wasn't planning on it, therefore it was a score. Now, the reason I bring up tax returns because tax returns are an interesting perspective where they let you spend money you don't got. So you can go to Jackson Hewitt, file your taxes, and they're like, you know what? We'll give you an advance on your tax return. We'll give you an advance on your tax return and let you spend money that ain't even came yet. For what? Like, for what? Why is it possibly that serious that you need to get an advance on money you shouldn't have been counting on? Like, it's not something you earned. It's not something you worked for. It's not something, taxes are a whole conversation. We're going to do another one on that. I've talked about taxes multiple times on my channel before, so y'all can go back and look at it, but I'm going to talk about it again because, now we're talking financial freedom, and I think taxes definitely fall right into this. So I'm going to do one episode just about taxes and how you should live better, live differently than the way other people are living, so that way taxes are not a burden. Taxes are a bonus. Taxes are a way that you get more control over your money if you know how to work the system. And that's what you got to do. You got to work the system. The system ain't wrong. There's a lot of people who tell you, well, you won't get me to saying that because I don't believe the system's wrong. I've been paying taxes for a hot damn minute. And you know what I'm saying? At the end, there was one year, me and Kimberly paid $13,000. That was our bill. We didn't get a tax return. We got a bill. And you know what? We've been getting bills most years that we've been married. Since we've been married, we just hit 10 years. My lovely, wonderful, awesome wife. Woo! We hit 10 years this year. We already 10 and a half. We already working around to that number 11. But see, the thing is in these 10 years, we've gotten a return like twice. For 10 years, we got a return. We got a bill almost every year. We always get a bill because we entrepreneurs, self-owned businesses, sole proprietorships. We had different things in our life that ultimately just accrued taxes that wasn't being deducted. And even when we had jobs, which both of us have at different points had jobs that taxes were indeed deducted, it was never enough to offset the stuff we had on the side. Never has been. Well, only twice. And it's just the way it is. So I don't want to spend too much time on taxes, but this was just an example to me that was something that was like, people borrow against money they don't got. People spend money they don't got. And this is commonplace. People get this idea that, like, let's go buy something from Conn's or, I can't think of the other place, but there's another big one. I remember next to my house, they used to have both of them right next door to each other. But they're big appliance and furniture places that will let you finance over the next 6 months. And if you pay it out in cash, this is a cool thing people don't know about that. Place like Conn's actually has decent prices. I had a buddy who built up his credit just from Conn's because he didn't have much credit cards, but he had a credit account at Conn's, and Conn's reported it. And he would buy something, finance it for 2 months. He would shop around. Check it out. He would shop around, find out that Conn's had a decent price, but only if you paid cash. Because if you financed it, you ended up paying like 20% over, something like that, 20% over what they were asking, or 25 or something. I don't know, it was crazy. You'd pay way more if you financed it. But if you paid it cash, you'd get a great deal. But paying cash didn't do anything for your credit. So he would get something on his account. He would make like 2 payments. And then after 2 payments, he only accrued like very tiny fractional amount of interest. Then he would go in on the 3rd payment and just pay the whole thing off, even though he was supposed to be able to pay it off for like 6 months or 8 months or 12 months, stuff like that. He would do that so that way he would accrue little interest, still come in at a pretty decent deal compared to some other places. But they would report it to his credit that he was making these payments on time, and it boosted his score. He had a high score. It was really awesome. And I didn't even know about this until he told me. He was the one who told me, my boy Daryl. So there's all these places that people go and they start spending money that they don't got yet. It's just a commonplace. It's just, I'll pay you next time because I worked all these hours this week, even though I don't get paid for 2 weeks. When that check comes, I'm gonna have some money, so I want to go ahead and spend it right now. It doesn't make sense, to always, and I'm not saying I ain't done it because I've done it. We've all done it. Well, not everybody. Congrats to those of you who have never done it, because most of us have. Most of us have done it before. You kind of just get into this cycle, this system, this pressure of the society around us, of the way people do things, and you fall into it, and before you know it, you're like, man, I should have done that different. Because I could have came out ahead, but instead I came out short. So the one school of thought is, like I said, I lived it, I earned it, Now y'all know I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian capitalist, but I'm a Christian. So from my faith, I'm going to tell you that your job, your paycheck, your wealth, your dollars that you're getting, that's a gift, man. It's a blessing. It's not yours. You didn't earn it, man. I mean, you did. You went and worked, and I'm proud of you. Good for you. You worked. But you had that opportunity to work because God gave it to you. You had the strength and ability to get that job done because God gave you that ability. God expects us to do a lot of things for ourselves, but he also blesses us with so much. So you owe it to yourself. You owe it to him. You owe it to your family to make the most out of that and not fritter it away. You know what I'm saying? Like you just do. That's my take on that. Now, so like I said, the first school of thought is just that it's mine, so I earned it, so I should be able to, spend it. Now, the second school of thought is just this stressful burden that it's like I'm trying to make my ends meet and I just can't get there. So my finances are constantly just a burden that they don't want to think about. They don't want to process it. Some people hate budgeting. They don't want to sit down and budget because they feel like they just feel this tightness. They feel this frustration. They feel this fire, this heat in their chest and in their head when they think about, I'm going to sit down and budget money that I don't got. I'm going to budget. Now, I already know I don't got enough. What's the point of budgeting if I know that my bills are like way more than what I'm bringing in? I'm bringing in like $1,000 and I know my bills are close to $2,000. What's the point of budgeting? Well, the reality is you need to budget because you need to figure out a way to tunnel out of that. And there is a way. I mean, it's hard. I've been there. I've been upside down in what I was earning and what I was putting out. I've been there. And there's a way to tunnel out. Yeah, you need to start making more money. Yeah, you got to position yourself better. I had to do it. But there's also a way to make just a little bit more with what you got. How can you shrink what you're spending, just a little bit? How can you adjust things just a little bit? My grandma was good at this, shuffling things around so that way the interest that you're paying is less. Because if you're losing money to fees and interest, then you're literally spending money that you didn't even really spend. But if you move things around, if there's a way to move things around, like my grandma taught me this thing. She was like, she had 3 credit cards and she transferred the balance from one to this one. And then when this one was due, or when from this one to this one, and then when this one was due, she transferred from this one to this one. And when this one was due, she transferred from this one to this one. And she did this in a cycle, and because she only got 1 check a month. And when her check came in, she's like, all right, now I'm the one that's got all that's holding this balance, I'm gonna pay that balance down. And she did that. She'd pay that balance down. And then she'd live off of those 3 revolving cards to buy gifts for her grandkids and things like that, which I didn't understand. That's how she was taking care, doing things for us when I was a little kid. But then when I got older, she explained to me, and she had a system. She didn't pay no interest, even though she was living just slightly. I mean, she wasn't living crazy, but she was living a little beyond her means. But the way she did it, she didn't pay no interest. She just kept, and she actually built up her credit by living beyond her means and not paying any interest, because she would pay the balance off with one of her other cards. The only cards that she had, all 3 of them, had free, feeless balance transfers. So she would just transfer from one to the other. It was a rotation. She figured that out. My grandma was smart, man. My grandma didn't always do things right, but she was smart. And that's the thing. None of us ever get all of it right, but we can still be smart. We can still make better choices. We can even mess everything up, just get into a nasty place, and then we can take a step back, look at each thing that we're dealing with, and say, how can I do better right now? I can't undo the fact I got myself in this hole. I can't undo the fact that I was underpaid and living beyond my means. I can't undo the fact that I was living way beyond my means, trying to impress people and be stupid. But, I can't undo any of that. But what I can do is look at all that and say, this is where I'm at today. And I'm not making enough. But how can I live smarter with what I got? How can I pay the least amount of interest, the least amount of random fees? How can I get this to a place where I got better control of my situation? Like I said, most people I lived it, I earned it, therefore I do what I want. And the other people are like, it's too stressful because I'm way in over my head and I just can't even think about it. Don't be that person. Don't hide. Your money ain't going nowhere. You trying to hide ain't fixing it, man. It's just not. I think of that episode of The Office when Michael Scott, he gets all frustrated and he's like, I declare bankruptcy, right? He declares bankruptcy. He doesn't really, but he just like shouts it to the office. And then he goes and runs away, hops on the train, and he's like, I'm just gonna ride the train. You can't run, man. You can't hide. And that's kind of like a comical commentary on our society. That's what people do. They either live the Michael Scott lifestyle, I can spend what I want, it don't matter because I'm going to get more money tomorrow anyways. Or they do the alternative, they try to run and hide from their finances and try to run from the burden. They don't want to face it, they don't want to deal with it. Don't be either one of those. Face it head on. See what you got, see what you're working with. Like I've talked about before, let's develop a relationship with your money. Your money should matter. Let's make it matter. It's your boy. Share this with somebody else. Share this with your homeboy, your sister, your cousin, your whatever, anybody. Share it with somebody. Make sure that somebody else, you tell them, hey, you got to watch this because you need to get in the best possible financial place for yourself. And I care. I'm judging you. I'm not judging you because, your financial situation isn't for me to judge, but I love you and I care. So take a second to watch this and tell them to pass it on to someone else. Y'all be sure, if you haven't seen those other 3 episodes, go watch them. It's your boy, I'm out.